Hello everyone. Today's video is about digestive enzymes. I just had a great interview with a doctor of pharmacy. Her name's Dr. Isabella Wentz. Our interview will be published as one of my episodes for my Overcoming Chronic Illness podcast. So please stay tuned for that. I'll be likely posting that within the next couple of weeks. And we chatted about a whole bunch of different things. Dr. Wentz specializes in thyroid issues, Hashimoto's in particular, and also adrenal gland issues. But of course, like a good clinician, she knows about a lot of other things as well, because when it comes to getting to the root cause of autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, you have to know about a lot of other things, including food sensitivities and gut health and different anti-inflammatory therapies and mold illness and things like that. So we had a really great chat, and we ended up spending a lot of our time talking about digestive tract related issues. And I was really curious to pick her brain because she's a doctor of pharmacy. A lot of my guests have been chiropractors and nutritionists and fellow naturopathic doctors and doctors of osteopathy. And I don't think I've had any medical doctors on yet, but I will one day, by golly. And so it was really great to pick her brain, because I just had kind of some geeky pharmacy related questions. And so one of my questions was around the difference between the potency of different types of enzymes. There's a condition, I've posted a couple of videos about it, and there seems to be kind of a growing awareness of this condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI for short. And so we chatted about that for a little bit. And it's basically this condition where there is a notable insufficiency of pancreatic enzymes either being produced or being secreted. And so one of the treatments for that that's available is to take pharmaceutical, kind of pharmacy grade enzymes. There's a couple of different brands. Most best known ones are Codazyme, the other one's called Creon. But there is also, and essentially they are a kind of a patented sort of a special preparation, if you will, of pancreatin, which is generally derived from pig pancreatic tissue. So they take the pig pancreatic tissue, kind of manipulate it in a certain way, and put it in these acid-resistant, delayed release capsules and these little microspherules, and they're supposed to be the cream of the crop when it comes to digestive enzyme function. However, we can, over the counter, get pancreatin. We can get basically the same type of pancreatic tissue, but it's just not put into the microspherules, and many of the products that are out there are not in these acid-resistant delayed release capsules or enteric-coated capsules, but some of them are. So we were chatting about our experiences with that, and one of the things, if I'm paraphrasing correctly, and of course I don't speak for Dr. Wentz, please listen to straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, listen to our podcast episode. But what I took away from our conversation was that she really didn't see any clinical difference between using delayed release enzymes versus non-delayed release enzymes, and that's what I've also been seeing in my practice as well. We kind of purchased a batch of delayed release pancreatin, and just to see, when people switch to that, or to or from that, from just regular non-delayed release pancreatin, does it make much of a difference? And it doesn't really seem to make a difference. And my understanding is that's been Dr. Wentz's experience too. It's an interesting observation, because on paper, the enzyme should work better in delayed release capsules because they're not getting released until they hit the small intestine. And in the small intestine, the pH, the acidity level, is a lot different than it is in the stomach. Once the processed food starts to hit the small intestine, at that point it's called the chyme, C-H-Y-M-E, then it gets quite acidic. And so the small intestine says, whoa, we're small intestine cells, we are not stomach cells. We can't handle a really acidic environment. So the pancreas starts blasting out bicarbonate to help neutralize the acidic content coming from the stomach. And so in the small intestine, it's a much more alkaline / non-acidic environment than in the stomach. And enzymes are really quite finicky, or at least many of them are, where they really prefer to operate at certain conditions. They want a certain temperature or a certain pH, like acidity level. There's various things that kind of influence the rate at which enzymes work. And so these enzymes work better in an alkaline environment. So it does stand to reason that, why wouldn't we give the enzymes when they're going to be released in the small intestine? And yet clinically, there doesn't really seem to be a difference in terms of how they work. So what I surmise, and to my understanding, there have not been any studies looking at this. I've done some digging because I'm a big nerd and I like looking at these things in my spare time when I have a chance to kind of poke around at different things. Like, oh, if anybody looked at any studies like this, and I haven't been able to find any research literature looking at this. If anyone listening is aware of such studies, please let me know. Post in the comment section below. I'd love to take a look at them. My theory as to why it maybe doesn't really matter whether they're delayed release or not is that perhaps the enzymes are just kind of hanging out in the stomach. They're just mixing with the food. They're not getting broken down and degraded, and then they just kind of are along for the ride, and then they start working, and they may be working a little bit in the stomach, even though the acidity level isn't quite where it is, it's not the optimal pH for their function, but then they're just along for the ride, and then once they finally hit the small intestine and get blasted with bicarbonate, then, oh, now I can start working better and the enzymes work. So maybe it's just a matter of like, nah, it doesn't really matter whether they're hanging out in the stomach for a little bit or not. It's kind of neither here nor there whether they get released in the stomach or not if they're not getting broken down in the stomach. So that's one possibility, in my opinion. The other possibility is that maybe there are other factors at play beyond just pH that influence whether the enzymes are going to work, and perhaps they work just fine or they work well enough anyways in the stomach, and so maybe they're, I don't know, 25-30% stronger in the small intestine, but they're working so darn well already in the stomach that it just doesn't really matter. And so I speculate there's well, there must be some reason, and those are a couple of the possible explanations as to why. So I was just really interested and heartened to hear Dr. Wentz's experience as well, because I do wonder, it's like, well, I've seen this, observed this in practice, but like, maybe the delayed release is better. They're only $1 or $2 more per bottle for delayed release capsules, but I think at this point I'm just going to stick with the non-delayed release pancreatin capsules, and they seem to be doing a job just about as well as the delayed release ones. So if you're listening to this video and you have any thoughts about enzymes, if you found that delayed release have worked better for you, or if you have any experience working with something like Creon or Codazyme versus other over-the-counter enzymes, if you've found that plant-based enzymes seem to work better than animal-based enzymes or vice versa, if there's any thoughts that you have to share about this, please post in the comment section. Folks seem to enjoy looking at the comments, and sometimes we get some dialogue going in there as well. Also, if you have any questions about this topic or anything else, just post in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer as soon as I can.